Katie, let it out with Katie. Let it out with Katie Dalebout, enthusiast and curator of people and ideas you need to hear. You guys, welcome back to the podcast. You are listening to Let It Out with me. I'm your host, Katie Dalebout. And today I have Julie Piatt back on the podcast. She was one of my first guests a while ago, back in 2013 when I first started this. And she's great. We talk about community, we talk about social media, we talk about hosting and family and plant-based cheese, because that's what her book, This Cheese is Nuts, is all about. We talk about aging, we talk about mothering, we talk about raising children and unschooling and plant-based food and eating, and she's just really great. I like her a lot as a person. She's really cool. Happy 4th of July week. I moved again this weekend, and I just have a funny story to tell you about what happened yesterday. So by yesterday, I mean 2 days ago from the day I'm recording this. I was moving, and we bring everything in. We went up 1,000,000 flights of stairs. We took 1,000,000 trips. It was the hottest day maybe ever, and everything's great. I get everything unpacked, and we're about to leave for the day. We're about to go get dinner. We're very excited. And next thing we know, I'm just reaching for my, yellow backpack. That's my purse. It's also a children's-sized backpack, so no one would even know it's a purse. And it has my wallet and everything important in it. And it's gone. We can't find it anywhere. We think maybe we left it in the lift on the way to the move. We think maybe we left it on the street and somebody accidentally threw it away in the trash can. We looked everywhere. We looked under the bed. We looked at everybody's bag. And it's gone. We were fully sure that it was gone. We called the Lyft driver. We thought maybe we left it there. My Instagram story came in very handy because we could figure out it wasn't at the last place I was staying, because we saw that it was gone, and we saw that it was in the Lyft drive with us, because as I was, just documenting my life on my Instagram story, there it is, the yellow backpack, the chartreuse backpack, and it's gone. It's not there. So we go to Target. Luckily, my boyfriend, Nick, was here. And so he just had to pay for my lifestyle, and we got a good dinner. I had a good attitude. Everything was good. We kind of were like, okay, it's gone. So I put a hold on my credit cards, all my different cards. Everything's great. Or not great, but it's like, well, it is what it is. And the next morning, I was like a little bit upset because I was like, this is a lot to deal with. I have to change all my accounts. And we go through the day thinking it's gone. I fully cancel all my cards. I pay for rush delivery of the new cards. We have to go all the way uptown so I can get cash at this credit union, blah, blah, blah. And then, after all of this, hours later, what was I even grabbing from the closet? No.
You were installing the shoe rack in the closet?
That's right. We're installing the shoe rack in the closet. And guess what? The yellow backpack was just hanging out right there in the closet, plain as day. I don't even think I said any words to you when I picked it up.
It was behind a dress, I think.
It was behind a dress, so maybe not plain as day, but it was in the closet. And I come out, and I didn't even say any words. I just showed you it, and you fell down onto the ground.
Yeah, I laid down for a while.
We both just laid down, and we laughed super hard. And then I called all my credit cards again to tell them that they didn't need to be canceled. And actually, please don't cancel them, because then I have to change all my accounts. Anyway, I just thought it was the funniest story that's maybe ever happened to me. Probably hearing it doesn't sound funny at all. But now I promise I'm going to get to the episode with Julie Piatt, which I think you guys will really like. Again, take it in. Take what you want. Leave the rest. No judgment on what you're eating, whether it's plant-based, whether it's not. But just, listen to this, find some new ideas maybe. She's really cool. I like her a lot. I actually got to record this in person in Soho at this very cool apartment that I got to go to. And she made me dinner after, and it was lovely. And I got to hang out with her and Leia, who's her photographer and her assistant. She took all the photos in her new book. And we just had a really great girls' night in. It was lovely. All right, so before we get to the episode, we have to talk about the amazing sponsors. First of all, Care Of. You know Care Of. You love Care Of. We're all unique people with unique bodies, and we have different needs, and that's what makes us so great and special. And Care Of understands that. That's why they create a simple solution that makes taking vitamins and finding your body's unique vitamin combination really easy and actually really fun. If you go to their website, takecareof.com, you take a simple quiz. It asks you questions about your lifestyle, your energy levels, your stress levels, and it comes up with this really great curated package of vitamins that you can take that are great for you. And since in this week's episode we talk about motherhood, there's something new with Care Of, and this is really cool. They have new prenatal and pregnancy packets that are formulated based on where your body is at in the process of pre, during, or post-pregnancy, and whether you're trying to get pregnant or you're currently pregnant or breastfeeding. These vitamins are great for you in that stage. They're easy on the stomach, and they have minerals specific to the hormone and nutrient needs for you at this time that you're going through. So go to takecareof.com now to get your personalized recommendation and use the code Katie, that's my name, Katie, at checkout for 50% off your first order. That's 50%. That is half of the percents. Anyway, check them out. I love Care Of. We love them. Okay. Also, we have a new sponsor this week. They're called L-Box, and I love them. I'm obsessed with them. I think they're great, and I can't wait for you guys to hear what they are. So listen, they are this really cool company that is totally changing the way you experience your period. They make it easy for your body and your self-care during that time of the month, and they use all natural products, and they get them to you at the lowest price. So, we're all people living our lives, being conscious of what we put in our bodies. We're probably being conscious of our skincare now with, chemicals. But what about what you put in your vagina? You got to be careful of that, right?
I completely agree.
Yeah, he agrees. Here's why. The FDA doesn't they don't actually at all. They don't regulate what goes into tampons. So there's a lot of chemicals and bleach and pesticides and chlorine, and we're putting that into our vaginas, the most absorbent part of our body, and it has a direct link to our reproductive organs. So L-Box ships 100% organic cotton. They use nothing else, no toxins, no dyes, no synthetic materials, and they deliver to your body and yourself this monthly box at a super low cost, so that way you never have to run out of tampons. The time of the month comes and you're not having your tampons. That's always a pain. You have to go to the store. But here's the thing. It's not just tampons and pads or whatever you need for your specific period that you pick, but it's also a comfort box with goodies and fun things that make this time of the month better for you, which I love. We all need things like tea and chocolate and things to just make us feel better during that time, and they know that, so they create this curated box. It's lovely. But here's the reason that I really, really, really love them, you guys. Do you remember getting your first period? You probably do. It was probably traumatic. I hope it wasn't, but it's likely that it might have been. But this is the thing about L-Box. They're changing the way that girls experience their first periods. So this is great for maybe your own kids, maybe your sisters, maybe your nieces, maybe your neighbors, maybe, any other girls in your life starting their periods. These first period boxes include an educational guide with the top quality products for this time of the month, and also comforting items like we talked about before. And it has everything that they need to experience their first period in a more mindful way and help them reduce fear and anxiety around having a menstrual cycle. And you can even get it to them before their first period to help educate and fill the gap of not knowing what this new part of their body is doing. Anyway, I love L-Box. Check them out. That was kind of long, but I just wanted to explain all of it. Go to lboxco.com lboxco.com/Katie. Just follow the link in the show notes, but it's lboxco.com/Katie. That's my name. And that's how you're going to get your first essential box free. Absolutely free. You don't even have to pay for it. So you might as well try it. You know what? Congratulations to you on your new free L box and your 50% off your Care of supplements. And now I'm going to finally let you listen to Julie Piatt. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I'll talk to you at the end with the emoji. First of all, thank you for doing this again.
Of course. Are you kidding? It's so fun to meet you in person. I almost can't believe that I hadn't met you in person, because I feel like I did.
I know. It was so chill just like coming over here, and I wasn't like nervous to meet a new person, or it was just felt like, oh, this is this person that's been in my life for so many years.
Exactly. You're like, oh, I know her.
Yeah.
No, it's perfect. It's great. So I'm glad we could fit it in. You're a newcomer to the city.
I know. And wait, you used to live here, right? No. I thought when you were in fashion you lived here.
No, but I like that dream.
Yeah. That's like somewhere in
No, I was a fashion designer in LA.
Okay.
And I lived in Paris.
Oh, that's maybe what I'm thinking.
For some time when I was in college.
Oh, yeah.
That's when I became a cheese expert. That's what gave me the foundation. No, I'm just saying that, but you know.
We'll get into
that's
all
the
that.
tie-in.
Yeah. No. We'll get into all of that.
Yeah,
so,
cool.
Before we get into cheese and your book and everything that's happened since 2013 and our last podcast and everything that's going to happen in the future, I've been really liking starting this podcast with the present.
Yeah.
So what have you been thinking and feeling and realizing, contemplating in like the last day or week or like super recently?
This is actually a really good question. It's we're having a discussion actually with some friends of ours, Mariana and Colin, Colin's a tea master that we take with us on retreat. When Rich and I do our week-long retreats in Europe and Ireland and Italy. And the other person is one of the people who came on the retreats as an attendee, and she and Colin fell in love, and now they're in a relationship.
Really?
Yeah, and they live part-time in Miami. So I was just
that is so cool.
It was sweet. It's our first real love connection. There's lots of deep friendships and great business things going on, but our first love connection. So Rich and I feel like little parents of our that we fostered this. But anyway, so we were in Miami, and I had my book launch. I had a big sit-down dinner at Sacred Space for 70 people. It was extraordinary. Maybe we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But I'm bringing this up because what's been up for me this week, and we've had extensive conversations about it, is really what is the downside of social media. And I think you and I talked about this because I asked you how you were feeling about it. I think the second interview that we had.
Yeah.
And we were, every once in a while I'll look at Leia when we're, in the middle of, Insta storying or taking photos, or we're on Instagram, and I'll just say like, are there like advanced beings that are just looking down on us, and they're saying, and look at them, they ran around with their phones and took pictures of themselves. And they were putting all this energy into this one thing because they didn't understand they could just meditate, or they didn't understand they could just sort of be. And, obviously Rich is very present on social media, and I am too now, especially with my book. And of course, without it, we would never have met.
Right.
I wouldn't be having this interview with you. But we were talking about what is that balance and what is that fine line. And I was talking about how just Insta storying or sharing things just because everybody's doing it, I can feel this huge energetic garbage dump of energetic waste that's being projected into the collective. And then Colin was offering, he's a physician of Chinese medicine, a very amazing meditator and tea master. And he was saying, we were reflecting about how everybody is so on their phones, they're not even experiencing the moment that's happening. And so that's what's been on my mind. And and I have some thoughts about it and wanted to write about it. And of course, I just finished 8 weeks of a full-on push, for my cheese book. And, you create this amazing, asset or creative expression. And in order to really say to myself that I did everything to nurture that project, I was required to do what I did. However, there was a lot of discernment in what I did and how I was doing it. And I think we did a pretty good job, probably not perfect, but we tried to do things that were only in organic alignment with me and what I was doing in order to spread the word. And and then you run into people. People came to my book signing at Books and Books, and they're like, "Oh, I wish I would have known about your dinner in Miami." And I'm thinking, "Are you serious?" Like I was so sensitive to like over posting about it, and then you have people that are like, "Oh, I wish I could have come."
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's really been up for me, and it was up for me a long time ago when I was sharing with you, because I was listening to one of my great spiritual allies, Lisa Renee, today, and she was talking about this condition by, we'll just say, energy that don't want humans to wake up, and it's this tactic of distract them. Keep them focused on something else rather than their spiritual evolution, rather than the transformation. It's almost like, look here, not here. And I think where we experienced that, at least in my world, was with the Trump election. And this concept of alternative news. So we're watching something on our social channels thinking there's a specific reality, when in fact a lot of that is being curated to a specific viewpoint. And the danger of that is that, I use this analogy, and I was telling Leah and Rich, it's like, I am a really horrible gambler. Like, I will go to Vegas and sit at a table, which has only happened like twice in my life, but I will gamble and be so happy, and I will think that I'm winning, and I'm not winning, I'm losing. So it was that same analogy that I had. I just had this awareness, and so I'm not saying that I have the answer. Like I said, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I'm telling you it's really got my attention. Yeah. And so when I share, I make sure that it means something, that it's for a reason. And I'm also aware that when I'm sharing, I'm being tracked. There's some kind of devices that are pulling information from you and creating some sort of system. I mean, I read some article after Trump was elected, and it was about the companies that actually gathered the social media information and actually got him elected, is what this article was saying. And do you know they can track even your cadence, how you walk when you hold your phone? So
what are these companies?
It's like a media data, company, and they can. So that's how specific it is. And now we have this whole pushing of this AI, this artificial intelligence that's encroaching. And so listen, all I'm saying is, cultivate your spiritual connection. That is the number one thing. And sometimes I look at Rich and I go, what if the whole thing blew up tomorrow? Then what?
Right.
Then what would be relevant in our lives?
Yeah.
So again, I mean, I've connected with thousands of people. I mean, we travel all over the world, and people stop us everywhere, and it's deeply meaningful. It's not that it's not, and I know you get this too.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just up for me, and I think because I was so in it for this 8 weeks,
right.
I'm using discernment to determine where I put my energy. So it's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And is it in the highest divine alignment? It's not easy.
Well, I think people taking notes, and myself when I listen to this again, those 3 things you said, if you can just have those in the back of your mind to kind of check yourself before you post something. But something that I've been thinking about a lot, which I would love your opinion on, is for me, since I kind of use social media in these 2 ways. And when my book was coming out, I totally know how you feel, because I was like, all right, I worked really hard on this thing, it took me a lot of time, and a lot of people helped me with it, so I have to do my best to promote it and show people that it exists in the world. That's my obligation to this project. And so in that way, I felt like I was promoting things. But then that was over a year ago. And before that, and since then, I've really looked at social media like I did since I grew up with it when I was in high school, or when I was younger than that, or high school really, as it's really just a scrapbook to share my life. And I kind of just forgot about, and I still, when a new podcast episode is up, of course I'm going to be like, hey, I got to talk to Julie Piatt or whoever it was, because I want people to hear it, because it was genuinely an important thing in my life. But I think I'm looking at social media as this is a way for me to remember, kind of like a gratitude journal of my day. That's kind of how I look at stories, at least on Instagram, of like, okay, I ate this really great acai bowl in the morning, and then I went to this class, and then I got to hang out with Julie, and then we did this or whatever, and then I can like watch it at the end of the day and be like, wow, those are some really beautiful moments. But I think I need to be checking myself of like, if that's my intention, then that's okay, but also like, am I showing, why do I need to show this to other people then, you know? And I think part of that is like, well, sometimes I do like showing it to other people because then that way it can make it last longer. Just kind of like when something good happens, I want to like call my mom, or I want to like call my best friend just to make it stay in it longer. I don't know. I'm just wrestling with like those two ways of using it. Does that make sense?
I mean, I love your I think that's a beautiful analogy and example, to use it as a gratitude journal. You know, I think that's a very conscious way to look at it. I guess I would ask you, are you not calling your mom then?
Yeah.
So not that we should call our overcall our moms or
Right.
anything. You get the point. The point is are we really missing our life? Are we living to photograph every single thing we do, and we never just sit down and just be in the moment? And I notice it, being the mom of children, and it's interesting because my children, I wonder if my children are going to be like completely not want to be on social media, which they kind of do. Like my sons, they deleted their Facebook pages like years ago, but now they're coming out with an album, and they're starting to step in for that reason, to promote their music. But they just think it's just not cool.
Yeah. So many people in my life feel like that too.
Do they?
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, and I think, well, this is one of the things I wrote down that I wanted to ask you about anyway, but I think it kind of ties into social media. You and Rich and your family are so huge about community, and it really inspires me. And I think that it's something I really admire about you guys, and I really feel the importance of community in my life. Like when I went to a retreat earlier this year, or just like having close relationships with people where I used to live, and then now that I moved, and seeing how that's like the most important thing I think for our health. So can you talk about, how you've cultivated that, the importance of that, and just everything?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and we're going to get back to, this double-edged sword, because it was created through social media. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. And when we were literally in financial collapse, it was social media that actually kept us going. We would be breaking down, sobbing in Starbucks, and suddenly we would get, a tweet from somebody. I mean, we called them Twitter dates at the time, and we started connecting with people that we admired, people that were kind of leaders, in our world, people that we looked up to, athletes. Rich never thought he would be speaking to or even having dinner with, and we met some very key people during that time. So again, I'm not saying that, I mean, social media is great. It's connected us with community, and we started to do these retreats in Europe, and I had done yoga retreats when I first met Rich. I did it for 10 years, and I produced these yoga retreats actually in Italy at this villa. Cool. And so and they were amazing then. I mean, they were life-changing then, but we had no message, we had no book. I wasn't a chef. Like it was just kind of like yoga in Italy, put them together. I mean, it was pretty amazing. So I knew when we launched it with our message that it was going to be profound. And we're sitting in this loft today having this interview because of the hospitality of two people that came on a retreat that they almost become like our family. Like we're really deeply connected. So we spend an entire week with them, and we do yoga every day together, run with Rich in the forest, tea ceremony, all plant-based food that I designed for the whole week. And then we have workshops both in the morning and the afternoon. So we share about family, community, sustainability, and then I do a lot of deeper spiritual practices. So cool. It's really cool. We have an Ayurvedic practitioner who comes, and then Colin, who pours tea. He does healing sessions, Chinese medicine healing sessions, and then I do also a kind of multi-dimensional healing sessions as well. So it's quite profound. And the last day we have a community circle where we circle up, and we we make the agreement to hold the highest vision for each individual, no matter the appearances. And so we make this vow to each other, and it's pretty deep, and there's a lot of tears and a lot of beauty, and it's just quite exceptional.
So cool.
And then,
how often do you do those?
Well, we've done 2 so far, and we have another retreat coming up in Ireland in a few weeks.
Cool.
So we go July 24th to the 31st to a manor in South Cork, and it's on 90 acres. And a lot of the accommodations are glamping tents.
Cool.
And it's a truly magical, gorgeous place. And so it's the same thing. You know, that's one of the ways we create community.
Yeah.
What happened as a result of the trip, the first trip, we had 2 ER doctors come from Australia. And after our retreat, they decided to launch their own wellness production company. And so they brought us to Australia, and we did two huge events there of 500 people each one. So we did one in Melbourne and one in Sydney. And it was I played a couple songs, Rich gave his keynote, I did a meditation, and then we did a Q&A. And just to meet everybody, and again, those people are listening to the podcasts, and that's how they know us.
Right.
And so, this is through the medium of internet. So we need it. We just need to make sure that we're using it and it's not using us, more.
I do like the medium of podcasting better than anything else, because I really think that it slows, everything else is like a soundbite or 15 seconds or a photo, but this you can't really hide. In a video, same sort of thing, but with this especially, it's like when it's this long and it's this chill, and the way Rich does his podcast and the way I do my podcast, it's like I don't edit. It's just we have a real conversation, and whatever comes up in that today is what people hear. So I feel like even though it is the internet, this is still
it's different.
Us. It's the best of them.
It is
right?
the best, and it really is the best. I mean, we met a couple who came in a cafe in Miami, and they were surprised. They actually wanted to see us and didn't know, where, and then they ran into us. And I didn't know, but the owner of the cafe, Veronica, came over and told me. She was like their podcast fan. So I made sure I went up and said hello. Yeah. And they were just like, we feel like we're so close to you. Yeah. And, we get that, and I know you get that as well. That's the thing in the podcast. They're like, I know you so well.
And it's kind of true. Like, whenever anyone, like, it happened just this week, we were walking down the street, and someone was like, Katie, and they actually recognized my boyfriend because I had like big sunglasses on from my Instagram stories, and she was like, I feel like I know you, and he was like, you basically do, because I'm the same on the podcast that I am in life, because it's just us talking, which is like a nice, it's a weird thing to meet people though, because they know so much about you, but you don't know anything about them, and I just want to, because I'm like, you're cool, and I want to be your friend.
Exactly, I know.
But I mean, that's us, like meeting right now.
It's the best. I mean, these long format podcasts are the best. These ones, the way that you do it, the way Rich does it, the way that I do it. Yeah. It's truly an amazing way to share information and to inspire people, and just give people a little support. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, and
it's really great.
What about with community outside of the internet, and like I saw this great video that Rich did that I want to watch like multiple times because it just made me feel so cozy, and I loved it about just community at your house.
Our house.
People like are living at your house. It just seems like this fun, magical place, and I honestly feel like that just like being in your presence, like right now, and just whenever I listen to you, I just feel so like nurtured and cozy. And how do you cultivate that in your home and your family and your life?
Well, I mean, when we started out, sort of, we built our home in 2003 is when we built it, and my dream was to have yoga retreats there and have a lot of yoga events. And over the years, I've had a lot of spiritual teachers there, many different traditions, a lot of Indian masters, some Native American. This Tea Master Wuda, who I'm actually going to see in New York on Tuesday night.
Rich's podcast.
Yeah, and he's also been he's been on Rich's podcast twice and been on my podcast once. Yeah, so Wuda's going to be actually in New York, so we're going to go sit with him tomorrow. But it started out like that. I was homeschooling my 2 younger girls, and I had a dream to start a homeschool, which I think we talked about on the earlier episodes.
That was a great intro to that. I got so many great comments on that.
That's so cool.
So if people are new to the podcast and haven't listened to that episode, I'll put it in the show.
Well, and so I was ahead of my time. I was ahead of the curve, and I had a hard time really getting the kids were really ready, but the parents just couldn't let go of that standardized education thing. It was too hard. But now it's interesting because I have a lot of young mothers coming back around to me, and they're asking me questions they want to. So I think you guys are going to do it. The next generation are going to do it. It was a little too much for my contemporaries. However, because I had that feeling and that kind of way of being, I really felt that we could do more as a collective than we could individually. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't just let anybody come into my house and pitch a tent. It was a very curated, very specific thing. It would be people that I had a very deep connection with that naturally fit in. We had Andrew Pasquela, who was going through a divorce, and he came and lived in his Airstream on our land for a while, and it was perfect. We were doing a lot of meditation and spiritual work and offered him support for a couple years, and my boys had recently lost their father. He had passed away, so he was another male influence, and it just felt good to all of us, so that was okay. And then in the early days, we had Stu Bone, who actually we met on Twitter, and I looked at his Twitter feed and saw that he lived in an Airstream, and we contacted each other, and I invited him to come and park his Airstream, and he would just come and visit for a few days and then go. But again, it was this wonderful friendship and just a moment, where it worked. And now I have, my boys are in their 20s, and they're recording their album in the garage, which is their music studio. And my nephew also has lived with us for 6 or 7 years. I've started saying that I have 5 kids because I always have to explain, but really he's with us all the time, Harry. So one of them lives in a teepee, one of them lives in a container, and so they're. What does that mean? They got one of those shipping containers, and Rich has his office in one of them, and then Trapper made a bedroom out of the other one. So what I'm saying is we're there, so they have their friends, and we're still there. And I, on Instagram, yesterday I was in Miami, and Leia stayed back with the girls along with my boys and Harry. And I saw this photo on Instagram, and they were all in Mathis's room, and they had an art night with this painter Avery. And so they all were painting, age 10 to 26, just painting away. And I was like, that's what I love. Yeah. So it's a creative way of being, just more of a creative life. And now the community for us is really the podcast community. And when we go out and we do events, and we always stay and we make sure we hug every single person and take a photo with every single person. So sometimes it's 3 hours after the event that we're there. And it's so meaningful, and we just don't take it for granted at all, not any of it. So,
you guys are so good.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
This energy that you have about you that's so nurturing, and I don't know exactly what to call it, but it's the word that keeps coming to mind is hosting, hosty. That's not even a word, but you're just
hostess with the mostest.
Yeah, hostess, I guess. No. But I feel like it's something that I really admire, and I've told you this so many times. I meant to say this at the top, but just I feel so connected to you. I always have for years with I've told you this last time, but the way you distill philosophies and some really kind of high level things just goes right in for me, just go, I don't know, no filter needed, just the way you explain things works for me. So I feel this connection with you is I love having people to my apartment. I like doing game nights. I like, just having lots of people around me. And I feel like that's something that we have in common. But what kind of tips do you have for people listening of wanting to cultivate community in their in-person daily life? What are some things that people can do to kind of have that feeling in their own lives?
Well, I would say the number one thing is food. It's all about food. Yeah. And I was kind of surprised. I didn't have chef, cookbook author on my list. It wasn't on my vision board. And I have a lot of things to offer. I have music, I have spiritual techniques, and for me, it's the spiritual energy that's being transmitted, which is the core of every single thing that I do. So it's where my main focus is. So if you were going to come to me and say, Julie, I only have an hour with you, I wouldn't cook for you. I would do a healing session for you. So that's where I focus. But I have to tell you, it was absolutely blown away at the amount of people that respond through the food. Like that's where they're able to grab, and that's the easiest conduit. And I just know, we know in spiritual tradition, to cook for people is one of the greatest blessings for the cook. It's an honor, and in every high-level spiritual community, it's the very highest beings that touch the food, because the food is living like mana, like fuel, like sacred energy. And so your energy of creating it affects it. And then when you eat it, so a taco is not a taco. It depends on who made that taco. And as you start to get more and more energetically sensitive, that kind of stuff affects you. You can get a stomach ache from someone's energy, no matter what you're eating. So what I would say, if you want to create community, start having a weekly food night. So I would say, become a good cook. Find a couple dishes that you like. Prepare it with love. Share your food with people. Invite them into your home. Show up at their door with something that you made. It sounds really like archaic in a way, but it's really the key to really solidifying and getting people to nurture, getting people to gather. And I know, I started feeding people. I started feeding Rich, actually, as the first experiment, because he was trying to do these double Ironman races on plants. And I think I probably told in the episode before that, one day he came in and I just handed him a kid and was racing out to go record my music. And he said to me, "Do you understand that I just ran a marathon?" And I was like, "Actually, no, I had zero idea that that's what you did." I just saw the door open and shut, and then he came back in. So I made a decision to feed him because it was something that I could do. I have an ability with it. It's something that I could do, and I knew it would support him. But in the course of that, in my trajectory, I've seen what you can do with food, and it's profound.
So you said that, being a chef wasn't ever on your vision board. It wasn't something that you necessarily wanted, but going back to kind of the hosting thing and bringing things together, I love eating great plant-based food, and I can make like the 4 things that I eat very simply. So like what I make for myself is just, I'm not even really cooking. I'm just like tossing an avocado on some greens and like calling it a day. But I get very stressed out when I'm cooking for people that aren't myself. I love doing it sometimes, but sometimes it just seems overwhelming. So, but I want to be in that place that you were in. Did you always have this like innate ability for cooking for other people, or like do you think you cultivated it?
I think I cultivated it. I think that I am a nurturer. I am definitely a mother, and that energy is felt
for sure.
But my mom was not a cook. She was raised in Latin America in a society where they had helpers that basically would prepare the food. So I didn't grow up in a household with amazing food. Quite the contrary. My mom's amazing, but she wasn't an amazing cook. So I started cooking with a boyfriend of mine in college. And
in Paris, right?
No, this was actually in Arizona. But he was French. He wasn't French fully. He was like American, second generation French. But we would just get a Bon Appetit magazine and make a recipe, right? So we just started like that. And then later, I don't know how, I think it was when I met the boy's dad, Lou, and I was married to him. He was a head of a very large company, and I liked entertaining, and I just found that I could cook for 40 people, and it wasn't a big deal. Like, I could figure out how to do it. It doesn't freak me out. I just had this dinner for 70 people, and I was not stressed at all about the food. Like, not at all. Because I know how good my food is.
Right.
So, and I've been doing it for a lot of years. But I guess what I would say to you is you don't have to be like me, but just find one dish. And then make it a potluck. So that you're not totally stressed. But make the theme being that we're gathering around food. Food that's free of violence, free of harm to the planet, and that is a fuel for your body temple. And even if people aren't plant-based in their whole life, just that experience, like that one night or that one gathering.
And that's something that we mentioned, Jess Bernan, who has one part plant, who we love. And her whole thing is like, don't make a big deal about it being plant-based. Just be like, this is a really good dish. Like, you don't even have to advertise that as the lead-in, like you can talk about that later and just be like, this was something that's really good. And then like when they're like, oh, these brownies are delicious, then you can like tell them, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of when people get annoyed by it or turned off by it, when the first thing you say is like how free of everything it is, you know, like that's not something to lead with. Maybe lead with the taste.
Let it stand on its own with the taste, for sure. You know, I think that's one thing. I think the other thing that is just an overall energy, and that is to cultivate an energy of unconditional love and compassion and non-judgment with whoever. You know, it's like, you know, it feels good to sit next to somebody who is free of judgment, who is just, you know, it's like we're all human. We're all not perfect. We wake up and create harm, like right away, just from being on the planet. This isn't something to become a vigilante about or to be, you know, a fanatic. We have to cultivate love and compassion. And so what I always tell people is if you've brought violence into your kitchen, you've completely missed it. So that means allowing people their journey with food. That doesn't mean be in denial. It doesn't mean not tell the truth. And no one wants to look at it because, God, it's so uncomfortable. But guess what? We really don't have the time anymore to be in denial. And this is where maybe when you interviewed me a few years ago, now I'm kind of on a different moment. I really feel like we need to be honest with ourselves and with our children. I wouldn't be very happy if somebody was feeding me something that was cultivated in violence and I wasn't told the truth. I wouldn't like that. It doesn't mean you have to you know, you have to go to the wall and like, you know, traumatize them, but you need to be clear. We need to be honest with ourselves, and we need to understand that we need to take responsibility. It's not for someone else to take responsibility. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and it starts right here with responsibility. So we try. You want to at least try and start with that intention, because you're gonna fall. You know what I mean? There's going to be a moment, and even when you do, to be loving with yourself. It's not a black and white thing. It's a gray thing. But start to feel your way into this sensitivity, and this plant-based awareness will connect you with your heart. It will wake you up to the beauty of who you are. And we need everybody to be who they are, because we all were created from this divinity. And if we all would just be who we were created to be at a, you know, design, at a blueprint level, think of the beauty that would exist. I mean, what a beautiful a beautiful mission of life, to know yourself.
It ties back to what we were talking about at the beginning of with social media. I think of like, we can't be asleep anymore to these things that even though we don't want to look at, we don't want to think about, it's so easy to stay in our bubble. And now I think the world is in this place where we really need to look at these things that make us feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and the thing is even in spiritual evolution, you have to look at what is. You have to be responsible enough and mature enough to look, you know, and that's to heal anything. You know, it's like when I was healing myself of this cyst in my neck, which I think we talked about in another episode.
Which is an amazing story, so please go back and listen if you don't know what we're talking about.
But when I started the herbs, the pus came out on my face and hundreds of pimples for like a 3-month period, and everyone in my life was freaking out, telling me to stop taking the herbs. But it's because we don't want to look at the ugly. We don't want to see it. We don't want to feel pain. We just want to take a pill. We don't want to really heal. We just want someone to tap us on our head with a wand and make it go away. But guess what? We live in a free will universe, and we incarnated here for a reason. We incarnated to become, to remember. And you do that through these experiences. And really, I mean, if you start really looking at what's going on planet Earth, there is only one intelligent solution, and that is to cultivate your divine connection. That is the thing. That is the thing that's going to keep you safe, that's going to align you with the right vibrational energies. And is it a vegan diet ultimately? No, it's not. That's not your ticket to, you know, realization, but it's a step. But for right now, I'm creating cookbooks to help a certain set of people remember and be able to, reconnect.
Another thing I feel like we were kind of talking about is like, it's easier to go through life being numb and not like being our full selves. And that, like you said, is why we're here, is to know ourselves and then fully be ourselves. And I think I've been thinking about this a lot. Relationships really bring that out of you, and you're forced to, like, sometimes you so don't want to, but it really puts that mirror up in your face of letting someone see you, and then you have to see yourself. So you and Rich have this relationship that is so relationship goals and something I admire so much. So can you talk about that a little bit, and like how you guys communicate so well, and you have these lives that are like super intertwined between co-parenting and the work that you do together? Like, what are some, I don't know, communication tips or just like relationship advice, anything?
Yeah, I think, well, going just to comment on what you said, it's like we have to understand that we have both dark and light parts of ourselves. Like, if you're in the illusion and you think that you only have light and that's where you're living, you haven't really fully matured. You haven't, and that's okay. But I'm just saying that everyone has both dark and light within them, and it's the clear and honest observation of those energies that allow the transformation to happen. It's a maturity. It's understanding, oh, I see that in me. And I was talking on Rich's podcast some months ago, and I was saying that I think one of the major steps to becoming a truly compassionate being is understanding that you are all those people. You are all those versions of all those people, no matter how dark, that you can see. It's almost like you don't throw stones in a glass house, right? So once you understand that you have been all of those, all versions, and then all of the seemingly, altruistic versions as well, that allows a real maturity, and it allows, I think, a level of that unconditional love and neutrality around your partner's darkness or your partner's imbalances. So, one of the most beautiful things that Rich said to me when I met him was, I can feel your pain and I have compassion for you, but I can't help you with that, right? And I had been in relationship with men who were like, I'm going to fix everything. Here, little girl, let me fix it all for you.
Right.
And just the fact that he even said that to me once, I was like, oh, that's such a relief.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you. So, Rich and I are very, very different individuals. Just in our constitution, from the way our digestion works, to the foods he likes, the food I like, to the temperatures, to the way we approach everything is completely different. I would say that understanding the difference between behaviors and the soul is very key in a long-term relationship. So it can be like, let's say, and I'm not going to give you specifics about Rich and my relationship because I really can't think of any right now, but it's that thing with, and I do it with my children as well. Like, I don't like what you did.
Yeah.
And that hurt me terribly or really upset me, or I'm really angry, but I love you.
Right.
So it's that awareness that the soul has unconditional love and that commitment, while I'm not quiet about the actions I don't like. Yeah. I'm very vocal. So we can, really express. And I do this with my daughter as well. We just go at it. It's like, it's not like a soft little thing, Right. It's an intense thing, but talk about a love that we have together. Right. And she knows exactly, like, our love is so deep.
Yeah.
And how cool that we can do that, together. So I think it's that understanding, keeping the soul out of the misbehavior.
Yeah.
Or the punishing act or the hurtful act, and being able to communicate just how deeply you were hurt about the punishing act. If you can keep those two things separate, you got a really good chance of transcending that hurt and coming back into divine love with the soul.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's really, really, really powerful.
I'm glad you brought up your daughters, because that was the other big thing I wanted to talk about before we start talking about cheese. But as a mother, the way that you parent, the way that you still have such a great relationship with yourself, and you're still this really creative, amazing being in the world, you were like one of the first people who I was like, oh, I think being a mother might actually be something I like might interest me someday. And other than that, it just like didn't really appeal to me. So how can you talk about that a little bit, about the way that you've mothered your children, and the way that you're this nurturing being and still have like this really great, beautiful life and identity yourself?
Well, I think it's funny, I talked about this on Jessica's podcast. I think my core, if I had to give one tip or one thing that was present in my life that made a huge difference, it's that I understand that we've all lived thousands of lifetimes. And I never felt like my children were my children, that they were less than me. I felt they were my children, like I loved them, to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
But I never thought they were less than or less developed. So from the time they were babies, I always viewed them as a divine being, fully developed. So I wasn't like, oh, I got to teach them how to be great, because God already made them great. I'm holding this miracle of life. That one little click completely created the most beautiful relationships in my life. And it also frees me from the imbalance of feeling as a parent that I have to make them into something.
Right.
It's really ego driven.
Yeah.
So it comes back to my devotion, to my service to the force. And I'm not religious. This is a spiritual energy, that's it's in nature.
Yeah.
But yeah, I honored them as divine. It's funny, I had a friend of mine ask me when my boys were little, like, what are your goals for your children? And I looked at him like, I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I don't have any goals for my children. Like, I will nurture them, support them, love them unconditionally, and teach them any lessons, like, don't play with fire, or don't, those type of things.
Right.
But it's like, they're not mine, it's not, they're not mine to judge or to create. And in the same way, I don't even take credit for how amazing they are. I mean, they blessed me as much as I blessed them. And I often say the most beautiful thing about motherhood is that the baby gives birth to the mother at the same time the mother gives birth to the baby.
Yeah.
So it's a double birth, really, when you look at it. So those were, that's like a really, really, really core thing. And this is another thing that I think is key as parents, that we would do very well to clear this issue. And that is that as parents, for some reason, we project our issues onto our kids. And if we suffered a pain in our childhood, rather than us healing it within ourselves through, healing sessions or yoga or meditation or self-inquiry, we then project that onto our child and want to make sure that our child never has that pain. And so what we've done is we've dumped our problems onto our children. And what I would say is that we need to stop doing that and understand your children are not you. They're not you. They're their own beings. And there are some very strong genetic patterns that will run, and a child will have an agreement to heal certain genetic patterns. And that's why, in healing, we say that, if you do the inner work and the meditation and the clearing and heal something, it heals 7 generations forward and 7 back. So there are those things. There are those genetic things. I mean, my son Trapper has so many characteristics of his father that I know what he's thinking. I know everything. I mean, and we giggle, we laugh, because I'll just tell him exactly what he's thinking, and he'll laugh, but I'll say, honey, I was married to your dad for 10 years. Like, I knew him so well. And I mean, everything about Trapper, the way he chews ice, the way when he's reading, he chews on his lip a certain way. I mean, it's uncanny. I'm just like, oh my God, that is so crazy. Wow. And same with Rich and Mathis. So much genetic likeness there. You know, we tease them. We're like, you know, we're putting both of you in a tent on the roof and we'll see what happens. But so that is present. But what I'm saying is, you know, if you have some big wounds, you know, if you want to really be a great parent, heal your own stuff. Yeah. You know, and let your kids be fresh the way they are.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, so I'm staring at this beautiful book, and I want to know everything. When did the idea come to you? Why cheese? Tell me everything.
Well, the book is called This Cheese is Nuts.
Best title.
Best title ever. Actually named by Daryl Ween, who is a movie director, producer, friend, and he's married to the amazing Zoe Lister-Jones, who has her first solo written, directed, and she stars in it. It's called Band-Aid. It's an amazing movie out right now. Everybody needs to go see it. It's incredible. I laughed for 20 minutes.
Yay,
and it's being picked up in all the theaters, and it's really crazy.
Band-Aid. Okay.
Yeah, so Daryl, who's an executive producer on that movie, they were coming over for dinner, and it was kind of early in my, not that early, but I guess probably halfway. You know, I looked back at some dates, and I actually started this in 2015.
Oh, wow.
I thought I had done it in a year and a half, but it's really been more like 2 years. So I was making a board of sample cheeses, and I teased them on Instagram because I knew they were coming, and they would look. So when he came in, they were starving, and they just started eating, you know. And then he says from the living room, like, Julie, do you have a title? I'm like, no. And he's like, This Cheese is Nuts. And I was like, oh my gosh. So anyway, so that was how the title. So I owe him that genius. So thank you, Daryl.
Shout out Daryl.
Shout out Daryl. But anyway, so when I started to create it, I think the ink wasn't even dry on the Plant Power Way, because I did a very basic cheese section and also latte section in the Plant Power Way. And at the time, we had been using just some store-bought almond grated cheese on our nachos. And it was okay. You know, we were trying to get used to it a little bit. And what I noticed is that in cleanup, I couldn't get it off the tray. Like I needed a jackhammer to get the residue, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking
So
about.
I thought to myself, this is not good for the digestion, like something's not right. So I created this warm cashew sauce. And we started to eat that on our nachos, and it's on this recipe, Torre de Nachos, in the Plant Power Way. And then it's so delicious that I couldn't even plate it before the boys had eaten it all. I started to have to like double and triple the recipe, because it literally would be gone in 15 minutes and there'd be nothing on the table. So then I started trying it on pizza, where I would make a homemade pizza with veggies and then pull it out of the oven and have warm cashew sauce on the stove, pour the cashew sauce on after, and then add like a salad on top of it. Fall down on the ground, delicious, like amazing. So when I turned that in, I was like, there's more in this cheese world to be discovered. And I really wanted to do it. I don't even know how, I guess. I just started. I just began. Yeah. And as you know, I approach food as an art, and I don't read cookbooks. It's funny because I don't use recipes from other people. I usually just create them on my own. So this was a little bit different. I did have to consult a couple books for some techniques. I did a lot of experimentation. I threw a lot of stuff away. I never throw meals away. Like, that just doesn't happen. But again, this is a little bit more chemistry that I was working out. So what I did is I was able to create so many ways to make amazing plant-based cheeses using nuts with very pure ingredients and quite a simple process. So I'm absolutely overjoyed with the result. I call it Cheese 2.0 because it's really not cheese, it's better than cheese. Yeah. And, it's like I have this cashew blue, which is just a delicious recipe. It's so amazing. And, somebody asked me, well, does it really taste like blue cheese? And I would say, no, thankfully, no, because have you tasted blue cheese recently? It tastes like an old tennis shoe. Yeah. And one of the things that I also experienced with this book is one of my sons, Tyler, and my niece Maggie, they don't like cheese. They never have liked cheese. Way. Okay, but they eat my cheese.
Yeah.
There's like three recipes that they don't eat, and it's the camembert with the truffle oil.
They taste like cheese.
Because it tastes too much like cheese.
Right.
But all the rest of them, they were just eating it. So it's even good for people who don't like cheese. Yeah. And then I included also, there's an allergy-free section in the book with cheese made from garbanzo beans, white beans, tofu, seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds.
Things all there.
Yeah, so it's there. And then I did a bunch of companion recipes as well, because I was the person, I love creamy stuff. I'm not going to have a tea without creamy in it. Mm-hmm. I don't want it. I don't want a black tea. I'm not going to drink it.
Yeah.
So I created also all the other desserts and all the meals that I craved that had cheese in them. So there's a beautiful potato lasagna.
This is all in the book?
It's all in the book. So this has very thin potatoes as the noodles.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm going to have to grab the book and show you the picture so you can see it all. So, this is one. Let's just move on right to this situation right here. So
yum.
Creme brulee was that's the dessert I ordered every single time.
I don't know if I've had it or if I've had it a long time ago when I was a child, but my mom loves this.
Does she?
I need to make this.
So I created this plant-based version. It's absolutely delicious.
Looks beautiful.
And you need a chef's torch, but it's just fantastic. Cauliflower smothered.
Stop it.
Yeah, so this is blackened cauliflower, and I was inspired this dish from Miznon in Paris. Have you been to La Marais? Okay, it's like a section of Paris, and they have this cafe there called Miznon. And they do these broiled whole heads of cauliflower. The whole head, they put it and just blacken it.
Yeah.
And then they don't serve theirs with cheese. But I did mine, and then I poured warm cashew sauce over the top. It's insane. Really, really good.
These photos are beautiful.
I did cheesecakes.
That this is, I don't know why I was thinking it was just exclusively cheese, but it's so not.
It's
Do you
so
have a
not.
favorite from the book?
Oh my goodness, I couldn't. This is McClay's Mexican cheesecake. This is one of the best chocolate cheesecakes you'll ever taste.
Oh, yeah.
So there's just so much. There's coconut yogurt, there's sour cream.
These photos, tell me about the photos.
Okay, so I have these photos were all taken by the amazing Leah Mirosevic. And Leah was the nanny.
I just met Leah.
You just met Leah.
And she's lovely.
And
she just took our photo.
She just took our photo. She was a nanny to my girls when they were very little. And I met her mom at a meditation event that we were at. And she raised these two gorgeous blonde. They were like the fairies of life. And my girls loved them. And my girls were intense. Like, they were not just a normal, easygoing child. Like, they required a lot of creativity. And both Leah and her sister Issa were magic. They were just amazing. So Leah's been in my life for many, many years. And when I was doing the homeschool, I really wanted her to do the school with me. And then, much to my sadness, but good for her, she went to Soka University and went away for 4 years and traveled all over the world. And she was the head of the garden there. And then after she finished Soka, I was still doing my homeschool. So she came back and was the head teacher. And then the whole thing fell apart and didn't work, and we moved on. And I was in the middle of a photo shoot for another project, and she was taking Instagram images, and I just saw her eye, and I was like, you are amazing. So when I started this book, I really needed an assistant. I knew I was ready to sort of bring somebody on, and I asked her if she would like to, come on and train and mentor to move into this. And she had a camera and had been in, Central America and had taken some amazing photographs of indigenous people there. And we started working together on a daily basis, and she just really, really rose fast. She's really gifted with it. She learned everything she needed to learn. And, we styled these, we work right there in the moment. So it's not, I like working that way rather than doing a shoot where I'm shooting 5 days, all these recipes. So we just shoot every day together, and we're both yogis, and we have the same flow, and we start every morning with a meditation and with tea, and we do it for the same reason, So she's chanting, she's a Buddhist, and she's chanting for, the beauty of this book, for this book to transform people through the recipes, and I'm doing the same in my own way. So we're very, very aligned, and it's almost like there's no personal anything for us to ever work through because it doesn't exist. So we're very devoted to the mission, and we care about the same things. And it was a huge joy for me to mentor her, to be, she has this gorgeous cover on this book. And these photographs in this book are absolutely extraordinary. And she's a full-blown photographer.
I love that story makes me like the book like 12 times more.
I know. It's really great. I've been talking about this thing with Leah. We've been talking about this divine alignment and what is divine alignment. And for me, it's when the processes are stacked on top of each other, where what I do for me benefits you in the same way. And this was one of those really amazing, experiences. I could have hired a food photographer that was available to me. I could have done that. I could have chosen to do it another way. But for me, this was really, it's so beautiful for me. So when I think of the beauty of the book and the love that's in the book, so we're just we're both thrilled, and
it seems way more fun to do it this way.
So much more fun.
Like for me, a lot of my work is solo, and I think that's something, going back to what we were talking about before about community, that I really miss, is that collaboration piece that I think is so important in life. And I would love to create a project or be a part of a team and like both pour your love and energy into something together. Sounds lovely. So
no, it's amazing. And I think, again, like you're talking about community, and I feel like on planet Earth, we've been in a society for many, 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 many years that we're just thinking about me. It's just I. And we've all been there. This isn't like a judgment. But we really are at a moment in history where now the proper way to think is we. In whatever way you can. And so this was a way we could be in we. And it's also just so efficient. You know what I mean?
And
it's
fun.
Like, it's efficient and fun. And so the same way with our retreats in Italy and our retreats in Ireland, it's like I create the menu for the whole week. And so I've created all these dishes. And so what we did is we photographed, and I created all the recipes. So we had already done half the Italian book. Oh, cool. So it's all done right as we're doing it. There's no going back and, we're going to go back. And then it's like you got to be there efficient, like in the moment, moving. And that's how, that's how we're developing. And Leah is also an amazing yoga teacher. And I just filmed my first, it's been sitting there ready to edit for almost 8 months, and I've been so busy I haven't, but I have a yoga video that I shot. She co-directed it.
Okay, so I really want to ask you my quick fire questions that I ask everyone, because they've changed since the last time you've been on the podcast. So one thing that I ask everyone, especially speaking as women, is about body image. And I think it's something that we think about and deal with as women, people in general, but just women more so. And being someone who's such a public person and in health and wellness, how do you handle body image, and have you ever struggled with it, or like what do you feel like about the physical body that you live in, and how do you like feel okay as a person in the world?
Well, again, it's like going back to that connection with divinity. It's like when you have that relationship, and when you view your body as a temple, as a divine mechanism, you can develop a nurturing self-talk. And I think that a lot of times most of us spend most of our lives saying very mean things to our body on a consistent basis. If you had a friend that did that to you, you would have stopped talking to her a very, very long time ago. So I really think that it's about being the best in your own physical form. And maybe the question is, have you treated your body? How are you treating your body? And we all do this, and I mean, I do it. It's like you look at a photo and you see everything negative in the photo, right? And then 5 years later, or maybe 2 years later, you look at the photo and you're like, oh, that was actually okay,
Yeah.
right? So I'm older in this space. I'm going to be 55 years old this year.
You look like I was 20, but
You're so sweet. But yeah, so it's a thing. It is a thing in this society. How do we age? How are we aging? And you were talking when I came earlier about how, women has so much more pressure, about how we look and everything else. And I'm right there with you. I'm a designer. I like things beautiful. I've never been down with this aging thing like that. I'm for like eternity in the soul. So I don't know how. I think we cultivate kindness towards ourselves. I think that's one of the reasons why I don't drink. I don't drink any alcohol because it's ravishing to the body. It's not something that is. It's not a healing elixir for the body. I try to eat in a way that nourishes the body. I try to take care of myself with yoga and meditation, and then I try to use, the best, products that I can, or things that are not chemical, toxic or chemical, or plastic surgery, or these type of things. And I'm not saying that that's never appropriate, because sometimes, it might be for you. But I guess this whole thing of, it's again, just like in health and wellness, like going right to that, like the first time you see a wrinkle on your face, or, is there another way to approach it? And I think we're all beautiful the way we were created, and there's all different bodies in all shapes and sizes. So I think where the self-loathing comes is, have you really treated your body in the most loving way? Or do you have some shame about that or something? However, this is another thing that's been on my mind, and I think that we're in the middle of this exploration with it, is how to be in the divine feminine on this planet, and to really be embodying that force in a fully expressed way. So women have been portrayed in this culture, in this planet, this society, as being a reflection. We're associated with the moon, which doesn't have its own light. It's a reflection. Women should be softer, smoother, more peaceful, more yin, all this thing. And I'm in a spot of exploration where I don't feel that to be true. I think we are a solar race, and women have their own light. And being a woman means many things. But Mother Earth is fierce when she needs to be. And if you're a mother and a guardian of your children, you're fierce. So I'm no longer subscribing to this paradigm of prince, princess. Nobody needs to be rescued. The divine feminine doesn't need to be rescued. She's running the show already. So we really need to understand, this is put in the culture, this Disney, someday your prince will come, and that the same energy is a rapist. It's a rape. You don't really understand it, but it really is, if you really look at it. Yeah. So my question to all of us is, how do we thrive? How do we be in radiance of our divine feminine, which includes beauty, immense creativity, without objectifying ourselves? Yeah. Where is the line with that? And I don't know that any of us know that. And I certainly have objectified myself, especially in my younger years. Not today. But and I'm not saying that, that I won't dress sexy or won't look good, but it's a specific energy, that I think we're going to have the opportunity to learn and have the opportunity to be in that beauty, because the feminine is the eternal creator. And this is whether you're a man or a woman, it's just within your being. And I do feel there is a movement from the younger generation towards androgyny, which is really the ultimate realization of enlightenment, because you have both within you. So it's a matter of where are you going to play it and what is appropriate. But I feel like there's a lot of stories on this planet, because it was set up this way, not because it's the women's fault, but where we were taught the most important thing was a man at any cost. And so where is the trust of the women? Where is the sisterhood? It's really, it's intense. And again, this has been implanted in the grid. So, but we, the feminine is, like I said, eternally created. She is powerful beyond measure and needs nothing outside of her. And really no divine being directly connected to source needs anything outside of itself. So it's going to be interesting, I think, over the next days, weeks, months, years, how we embody this true archetype of what it really means to be a woman. So I'm excited. It's a beautiful time on the planet. There is a lot of trauma happening now, and yet this is what we incarnated for, is this moment. So we need everybody to be more of who they are, to know themselves, to make sure they're using their discernment, to make sure that they're being authentic, and that they're cultivating that divine connection as the first priority.
This is interesting, because the next question that I ask everyone is to speak on feminism and how you define, I know it's like perfectly aligned, how you define your feminism today and what that means to you. And I feel like you just touched on it almost completely. Is there anything you want to add to like what you view as feminism now and how it's important with the world we're in today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just what I just said. I kind of talked about it in depth. And mind you, I mean, everything's perfect. We're right on time. We've been through our experience. And in my own experience of being a woman, I'm a hopeless romantic. I love being in love. I love all of that. And I've had quite an interesting path in that I've sampled various types of relationships as a woman. An abusive relationship, physically abusive, that was my first marriage. Then the second one, which was a prince-princess paradigm, which was beautiful for 10 years, amazing. And then this one, which is more of a divine, feminine, masculine, equality situation. And yet there's beyond, and beyond is when you're fully embodied and you don't need the other to complete you. So, we're in this moment of transformation. And I mean, Rich and my relationship is going through a huge transformation. And, we're very together, and even closer than, we've ever been. And yet, we're transforming. Both of us are transforming. So it's, we're going to be on planet Earth for a long time, and it depends. I think it's an opportunity. It is an opportunity for a greater expansion, because if you can imagine being fully merged with your God self and then being in relationship with anyone, no matter, what sex or what your preference is. But that's what I'm talking about. It's almost like you're sovereign completely, and then you choose to dance with somebody, but it's not out of necessity. It's not out of, all relationships were brought together because you have a similar kind of wounding. There's some kind of wounding that happens to match up, and then it's like, oh, that's I have a scrape on that knee, so that's how it's set up. So again, it's been an evolution. Everything's perfect. Everything's right on time. But I'm just saying that it is the moment now for the feminine to be all that she is as a completely connected sovereign being.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay, these are actually quick fires. And they're different from what you answered last time. But since you just traveled in here, what are some of your top travel tips or things to stay plant powered and
Cool.
self-aware of traveling?
Well, one thing that I have to do is I bring essential oils on the plane of some kind. Cool. Just because I'm very sensitive to the smells and energy and also the plane air, around me. So I will do that. I happen to travel with a beautiful teacup, ceremonial teacup with pu'er tea. And I'll get just a bunch of leaves on the bottom of the bowl, and I just fill that up the entire flight with continual stream of hot water.
Oh, cool.
So that's one thing that I
ask
do.
the flight attendant?
Yeah, I'll just walk back there and I'll be
Yeah.
like, "Can you fill this up?" And they're kind of like, "Really?"
Yeah.
It just makes all the difference.
Yeah.
And I can put it in, a Ziploc bag and just put it in my backpack, and it seems to work really well. So that's one tip. I'm trying to think, what else do I do to travel? I usually do yoga in the airport before I get on the plane, especially if it's a long flight.
Cool.
So I'll get in just a little bit of stretching and some asana. I don't really care if people are watching or whatever. It's like rather take care of my body. Yeah. And then also I always put a really super heavy mask on my face, or get a really emollient cream, a really good one, and put it on before I go on the plane, so that my face gets more moisture.
I love that. What is the best thing that you've eaten in the last week?
My cheese.
A specific one from the
mozzarella in brine. It's the delicious, creamy mozzarella cheese.
Ooh, that's really good. So my book was about journaling.
Mm-hmm.
So I love to ask, are you a journaler? Is journaling or writing a way that you kind of process your thoughts and feelings? Anything that you can share?
Yeah, actually, I have this amazing pen. I went to this spiritual community in Motherhood. Do you know about Motherhood?
No.
It could be another podcast, but it's a spiritual community in Italy that was founded 30 years ago.
Cool.
And I've been there twice, and they have these temples to mankind inside the mountains, and I've slept in the temples. And the founder was an alchemist, and he created a lot of systems and tools that were made with spirals of energy and metal and fluid. And these spirals are inside the walls of these temples. And for our first Italian retreat 2 years ago, we took the crew to Damanhur, and we slept in the temples before we went to the retreat. So cool. And my son Trapper bought me this pen, and I have this special pen that was designed by Falco, the founder, and it's a pen for channeling. It's supposed to open your channel to your soul. So yes, in the morning, every morning when I wake up very early, I have 3 cups of pu'er tea, and I will keep that pen near me. And not every day, but in certain times, I channel messages from my soul to myself with that, through
kind
that
of
pen.
Morning pages-ish?
Kind of ish, yeah.
Cool, love that. Okay, what is your greatest lesson on relationships?
Lesson or knowledge or whatever?
Lesson,
Okay.
advice, whatever.
Communication is key. You got to communicate.
And greatest lesson on family? Similar, probably. Communication seems like it would be a good one.
Just, each being is a divine design and is honored and loved that way.
I love that. What do you think happens when we die? Where are you with that today?
What happens when we die is a multitude of outcomes. It depends on the person, their consciousness, what their belief system is, what their lineage is, what their plan is. But there is no death. So life goes on. And that's where I am.
What are you most looking forward to in your life?
fully embodying the divine feminine.
How do you prevent / handle stress if it comes up?
Yoga.
Nice. Okay, this is one that's kind of fun, and it's really just a way for you to recommend things. So you're trapped on a deserted island, and you can only bring with you one music, song, or artist, something, one movie, one TV show, one food, and one person. So
those are them.
Those are the
Okay, I would bring Grizzly Bear, their latest album.
music.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
I saw them once.
You did. And actually also Feist. Sorry, can I bring two?
Yeah, of course.
And Feist, her latest album, Pleasure. I would bring both of those.
listened to it.
I would bring Band-Aid, my friend Zoe and Daryl's movie. Seriously,
really wanna
it's
watch
really
it. I'm
funny.
really excited.
It is really funny.
Cool.
Okay, so that's music, food. Now what?
No, you didn't say food.
Oh, I didn't say food. Music, movie.
Yeah. So what would you bring?
Food, I would take my food, my cheese.
Nice.
And what was the other one? Person?
Person and TV show if you have one.
Person is Ritual, and TV show is The OA.
Oh, I still haven't watched it yet.
Oh my gosh.
So many people have recommended that
It's
when I say
so
that question.
good.
I
Yeah.
just haven't had time.
Oh,
I
you
need
have to have
watch it.
time. It's really good. It's really great.
Okay, so the podcast name, since you last came on the show, has changed.
Yes.
And it is now called Let It Out.
Yeah.
So when I offer that term to you,
Yes.
to let it out, what do you feel like you still need to let out? Do you feel like I wrung you dry for all your Julie Piatt wisdom? Anything you wish I would have asked you?
I think that what I do want to say is about the book. I don't think we talked about the book that much, but which is great. But I would say that the creamy, tangy, cheesy taste that you achieve with the recipes in this Cheese is Nuts will literally blow your mind. You are not going to believe what you can do. And please don't think that it's really, really difficult. So
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying that.
if you're interested in spiritual transformation and you want to cultivate that, listen to my podcast, Divine
Yes.
Through Line. I have now 91 episodes.
I'll put all the links in the
Yeah,
show.
so you could do that. And I don't know. I think that's it. I think we need to eat.
Yes. All right, that's the episode with Julie Piatt. I hope you liked it. Check out her book. Check out her book tour if she's coming to a city near you. She's a delight. She gives great hugs and she makes great food. All right, thank you, Kara, for sponsoring the podcast. I love you. I love your supplements. I think you're great. Go to takecareof.com if you want to try them out and see for yourself if they're great. And take the quiz. The quiz is great. I actually took the quiz and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just find out what I need and then I can just go buy them in the store on my own. However, I realized I actually save money if I have Care of do it for me, and the packaging's really cute. So use my code Katie at checkout for 50% off, and check out our new sponsor, L-Box. They're great. 100% organic cotton, no toxins, no dyes, no synthetic materials. Also, they give you comfort items. Also, there's the first period box. They're great. Check them out. Make sure you use the link in the show notes. All right, that's all we have for this week. The emoji, I think, is pretty obvious this week. It's a backpack. There's a backpack emoji. It's blue or it's
Red.
It's a red backpack.
Should be yellow.
Should be yellow. My backpack is yellow, but we found it, so, you know, we don't need to find that one anymore. Anyway, if you're still listening right now, you're a goddamn saint. So tweet at me the red backpack and put it on Instagram. Let's hang out on all of social media. I'm at Katie Dalebout, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Love you. Bye.
Bye.